Alright, you guys gave me a ton of questions for this week, so let's jump right into it. Will we ever see an Advance OU Lantern laddering session from Superbad Cat? Well, Linus has already answered this. It's not a question of if we will ever see it, but when we will see it. And I don't know when we will see it, but don't worry, I always have Lantern on my mind, and we'll definitely give it more time in the spotlight. Plague Von Karma, what do you think is the most badly designed Pokemon and why? It can be in a generation of your choice. I know most people would probably say something from Gen 5, like, they usually say, Garbodor and Vanillix, but I like those. I like the Gen 5 designs. I don't really think about the most badly designed Pokemon, but I will say the 6th generation definitely felt like it had more bland, uninspired, and forgettable designs as a whole. So, I don't have an exact answer, but I would say it's probably something from Gen 6. So, Lakin, what's a nicer city to live in, Prague or Brno? Well, I love Prague and have lived here for a majority of my life. And I've only been to Brno on several occasions, none of them very extensive, so obviously I'm biased when I say Prague, but Brno is obviously very nice as well. I will say that Prague having a subway system is a big point in its favor because when my girlfriend and I were in Brno recently for a vacation, then the trams and the tram stops, which everyone uses to get around, were incredibly crowded. And Prague, yeah, trams can be crowded, but not nearly to the extent as in Brno, because in Prague you also have the subway system to get around, which makes things easier and less crowded as a whole. So, obviously this is a biased answer, but that's what I would go with for now. I do like Brno a lot, though, on the probably 10-ish occasions I have been throughout my life. So, Beats Black, did you know Silk Scarf boosted Super Fang actually does 62% of the enemy's HP? I didn't know that. That is interesting, if that's true. Bikinho, why is Arena Trap Dugtrio banned in the latest generations, but in advancing DPP is considered healthy? Well, depending on who you ask, he's not considered healthy in those, but I know what you mean. The majority opinion is that Doug is fine in those. The reason that Doug is unequivocally considered to be nonsense Gen 5 and up is by and large team preview. It's a lot easier to abuse Dugtrio when you know exactly what you need it for, and that you know that you're going to be able to deal with the opponent's response to Dugtrio afterwards. So, I'll give some examples. In Gen 3 and 4, then you don't know how the opponent's going to respond to your Dugtrio after you trap, and that means that it's not as mindless as just bring in Dugtrio, pick off your one thing that you need, and then sweep with your sweeper that abuses Dugtrio, removing T-Tar and Heatran and Jirachi. So you're not able to do that as risklessly. So let's say in Gen 3 you trap T-Tar in the first couple turns of the game, fine, and then the opponent brings in a Porygon 2, removes your Dugtrio, and then later on they have something like a Jirachi or a Heracross that you can't trap anymore. So stuff like that. Or in DPP when DD Dragonite sets up on your locked Dugtrio EQ, and sweeps you, and you couldn't do anything about it. So, in Gen 5, it becomes a lot easier to abuse something that is so inherently broken as Arena Trap is. It also helps that in Gen 5 and up, it becomes easier than ever to deny hazards with Magic Bounce in Gen 5, and of course Team Preview helps out a lot there. And then Defog in Gen 6 and up, so Dugtrio can run Focus Sash and check stuff that it really shouldn't be checking. Like in Gen 5, it's a good switch to mix, not Gen 5, Gen 7, it's a good switch to, or was a good switch to Z-Cure and Black, because it would take any attack and then just reversal it down, so it was really dumb. So it can't get away with running Focus Sash in Gen 4, and it doesn't exist in Gen 3. So it's a combination of all these factors, and I am making this a little quicker than I'd like, because it is a complex issue. Maybe I can make a video about it. It's a good idea, but for the sake of this, then it's a combination of no team preview and needing choice band, both of which are extremely abusable. So, Arid BXT, why is Snorlax not banned in GSC? Heavy questions. So, okay. Another short question, a short answer to a question that really deserves a longer answer, but in the old days of Pokemon, I mean the really old days, even way before my time, then it was a lot different because people weren't having suspect tests and banning the top OU Pokemon. They were just playing around it. And this was, this actually had a kind of a cultural thing to it, because then the new generations came around and, stuff started getting banned as Smogon expanded, and people were going, oh, in the old gens, well, we didn't ban stuff, we just dealt with it. And in the earlier generations, on the other hand, then you have people from the newer generations coming into the old generations going, why isn't this banned? It's so good. Everyone uses T-Tar in advance. So, it's kind of, you have to find this sort of sweet spot, because in the early generations, with the limited amount of power, then you didn't really need to deal with stuff through bans as much, because it was easier to play around stuff with the lack of power creep. And, as Smogon was expanding, then metagames got bigger and stronger and more Life Orb and Choice Specs and Draco Meteor and everything. So that's why it seems like, oh, you guys ban everything good. And it's like, yeah, well, you never had to deal with stuff like Garchomp in OU in Gen 4. So it's kind of a blend of that. It's also that, but also the fact that it was just different back then. So you would, by nowadays standards, you probably would ban Snorlax, and you wouldn't care that you would have to ban Zapdos and Raikou afterwards and end up with an entirely different metagame. But back then it was smaller, and you just didn't do things like that. And nowadays, we don't really have the resources to... It's not like GSC is a current OU metagame, so we don't have the resources to go back and quote-unquote fix that. I think you just take the tier for what it is, and by learning to adapt to threats like that, then I think that's actually influenced the more modern way we do tiering, where, like in Gen 7, everyone wanted to ban stuff, and almost nothing got banned, and some people would say that was a fault of the tier, but it showed that adaptation is another viable method of dealing with threats. So, and I think that comes with greater awareness of the earlier gens and just playing around stuff that you would think is broken. So, it's a kind of a long-winded answer to a question, to a complicated question, and maybe this will also deserve a video of its own. But it's a combination of that's the way things were, and we really can't change them, and it's not as, I don't know. You could say it warps the metagame. It's not healthy, but I don't know. Landorus Therian warps the metagame too, and it's not unhealthy. So you gotta. It's a combination of factors that aren't the most justifiable, but you go in there, you learn how it works, and suddenly it makes sense. I understand why to an outsider it would seem that why is this Pokemon allowed? But once you are actually familiar with the tier, then it makes a lot more sense. So again, great question, and I would love to expand on this further in a video, just like the Dugtrio thing, because I realize it is confusing. So. Zasa2, what move or ability do you wish was more widely distributed? This is a great question. I'm all about having more defensive answers to Pokemon. I don't want stall to rule or anything like that, but I do enjoy when there are ways of playing around things. Now, I'm not crazy about Regenerator in the new... Let's just say if I was to distribute this in a newer gen, I wouldn't give more Regenerator, because I think Gen 5 and arguably 6 had good use of Regenerator, but then, Pex came around, and it became easier than ever to keep rocks off the field, and Torn Therian was nuts, and so I think Regenerator in its modern form is a little much, but I think when it came out, then the idea was fantastic. Keeping up with all the crazy threats in Black and White, and suddenly we get Regenerator, Tangrowth, and Slowbro, that was, more than fair. Nowadays, it's gone a little too far in the opposite direction. So, I wouldn't do Regenerator, but that's the kind of idea that I would have for something I would want to distribute more. So I guess Intimidate. Intimidate is a kind of a similar thing. So I would definitely say more Intimidate Pokemon are good. Plus, it's just such a cool ability. So, yeah, I like Intimidate. The End of Joe. Now that Sleep is banned in Gen 5, do you think Darkrai would have a legitimate shot at being a part of the tier? or do you think that it would still be overwhelming? Oh, no, not even close. Darkrai is its sleep was part of the reason why it was so dumb when it was tested at the beginning, but you also got to keep in mind this is a Pokemon faster than Alakazam, just as strong as Alakazam, and with a nasty plot. And so I don't think Darkrai would be healthy at all. It's too fast, too strong, has incredible coverage in just 2 moves. And it even has dumb stuff like Will-O-Wisp and Ice Beam to further mess the opponent up with. So no, I think it would be like a fun tournament to play around with, but I really don't see it being a good addition to the metagame. Tropical Tyranitar is already over-relied on for too many special threats, and throwing another one on the pile is not healthy. I guess you could say that it's a nice check to Reuniclus or something, but no Darkrai, absolutely not. Too fast, too strong. So XE, why would you ban the entire tier? Yeah, I guess that's kind of a valid answer. Beats Black, give Xploud the ability Punk Rock? Hell yes, absolutely. Xploud would be a fantastic punk rock, member of a punk rock band. I'm sure, some people out there is like, actually, Xploud would be more of a noise rock outfit kind of Pokemon. And yeah, sure, but, just the concept of going as loud as possible and pissing people off, that's extremely punk rock, so. Nyasin, do you have any thoughts on Godspeed You Black Emperor, specifically the album Lift Your Skinny Fist Like Antennas to Heaven? Yeah, I like Godspeed You. They're good bands. They're not my favorite post-rock outfit, but I think they're solid at what they do. They conjure some really great atmospheres. That said, they kind of meander a bit for my taste, which I get is kind of what their appeal is, but I've never been as engaged throughout their discography as some others have been. That said, solid bands. Nothing but respect for them and what they've done. So, and that album you mentioned specifically is a great one. So, Heika, how would you explain positioning in Pokemon? Good lord, these are tough questions, guys. I mean, not, this is a good problem to have, of course, but positioning in Pokemon. Okay, this is another thing that deserves its own video, but in short, I guess you would say positioning in Pokemon boils down to you putting yourself in a position to where it's not about predicting anymore, and more about just making the straightforward safe moves, knowing that your opponent cannot deal with them. So here are some examples. If you have a Choice Band Terrakion in black and white, and your opponent has 6 Pokemon that cannot eat close combat, or or a Scarf Landorus that eats close combat, and everything else dies to it, which is more likely. And Scarf Lando is not really a good answer to banded close combat throughout the game, especially with Rocks Up. It does a ton. So what you would want to do is get yourself in a situation where Terrakion is on the field, and at that point you don't have to predict, you don't have to Stone Edge the Lando, because you're going to close combat it and do a ton of damage to it if it stays in, or if it switches in, and if whatever else stays in, then it obviously just dies. So positioning is getting yourself into a position where you are making some form of progress, or well off against the opponent, however you want to look at it, no matter what. So let's say you want to get Terrakion in safely, so you pair it with a Rotom Wash. It Volt switches out of Ferrothorn, because Ferrothorn is forced to switch into it. So let's say you lead off with Rotom against like a Politoed, and you just Volt switch on out of there, because Politoed can't stay in. If it stays in, then it takes Volt Switch damage, and you enjoy that because you're running a Sand team. So creating these kind of win-win scenarios. You want to position yourself to where you're constantly getting in those and threatening the opponent and dealing with their threats and whatnot. This can also be extended to stuff like if you're weak to an opposing sweeper, then positioning yourself to, if a Pokemon of yours gives it an opportunity to set up, then you never leave it in. Here's an example. In Blunder versus CBB, then Blunder's Hydreigon gave Volcarona a setup opportunity. Thus, Blunder never actually attacked with the Hydreigon, because if he actually KO'd one of CBB's Pokemon with it, Volcarona would come in. So positioning is kind of the antithesis of prediction in a sense, because it's not about, I'm going to, predict circles around my opponent. None of that. You force yourself into... You focus on what you can control, as opposed to guessing what your opponent is going to do. So If you have a Specs Hydreigon that lets Volcarona set up, you can make sure, you can position yourself so that Volcarona will never actually be setting up on the Hydreigon. So I'm just going to check what this tag is real quick. Oh, good. August wants to do a video on Black and White RU. Great tier. So, I hope that was a satisfactory answer. This is the kind of thing that deserves its own video, so I'm glad you guys are asking these. So, so many ideas for future videos. I'll never be creatively bankrupt. And so I hope that short explanation helped a little. If you want me to expand on this, then hop on Discord and, ask another question. So, LOG or Log, how did you meet Kellen or False Swipe Gaming? Well, I was looking for some extra work because all my real-life jobs were paying nonsense. So I hit up Joey because I'd seen how good was X Pokemon actually around, and I was like, oh, those scripted videos, okay, well, I know a lot of Pokemon. I know a lot about competitive Pokemon. So I was like, hey, Joey, can you get me a job? Like, I'm sure people hire writers for this kind of stuff. Can you get me a job like this? And he was like, yeah, I'll just hook you up with False Swipe or Kellen. And that was over 2 years ago, and the rest is history. So, yeah. All right. Lionhearts. He's doing this in the form of a radio call. Cool. Excuse me, Mr. BKC, longtime viewer, first-time caller, or, okay, like a show, whatever. Is there a reason that the older tiers don't see the usage statistic tier shift information seen in current gen? They seem to me to be played enough that the data would be present, and I'm always curious about these types of analytics. You would think that they're played enough, right? Because they have a lot of tournaments, but if you actually look at the numbers, they pale in comparison to current gen OU. It just can't be done feasibly. Like the ladder in, let's say, Gen 4 is not representative at all of the metagame until you get to the absolute top, where something like Sword and Shield, when I was doing the Magirna Suspect Rex, I was not playing top tier OU teams, even as I got pretty high up. So that's just, and just the number of battles is another factor. There's just not enough data for it. So it's nice. It's a nice idea, but it's there's that, and the older generations, ever since they're not current, they are supposed to have some form of stability. That's part of their appeal. Now, we've had a lot of arguments in the past when trying to deal with stuff that became a problem. People would say, oh, don't ban them. These old gens are supposed to be left alone. And so I'm not saying that there should be an expiration date. Once you're no longer current, then you can no longer be fixed if there's a problem. But, you wouldn't not deal with a problem. Like, I don't know, if tomorrow Heatran became broken in Black and White, we wouldn't, unequivocally broken, we wouldn't not suspect it just because lol old gen. But we definitely don't have enough data to make constant changes just because of shifting data over time. There's just not enough data. The data isn't reliable enough. So I hope that was satisfactory. Feel free to call in again for clarification. Holder of shit coins. Thoughts on triple battles / rotation battles? Lol. They're fun in-game. Wouldn't want to do them competitively. Doubles is enough of a headache as is. When I was playing through Pokemon Black recently, then it was hard enough to beat the in-game rotation battle thing, so. YouTube _ the average Bloons tuber. Thoughts on Bidoof in Ubers? Well, if it's Gen 5, or whatever other generation Bidoof has inconsistent, then, or moody. No, inconsistent was what it was when Black and White had just come out and it was getting translated. So, yeah, if Bidoof has moody, then it's actually pretty good in Ubers because you just sub-protect and then do other dumb stuff. Bidoof, B-Barrel, whatever. So, yeah, Bidoof has a niche in Ubers with moody. Not a good one, but it has one. Harbinger, say you get to give a Mega Evolution to an older gen OU mon that has fallen off. Could be Snorlax, Tauros, Flygon, Infernape. Could anything you want to see come back to OU glory? What mon would it be, and how will you change its typing and ability and allocate the net plus 100 base stat total in order to improve the Pokemon? Well, you can't be too insane, because I think there were some cases where a Mega got something taken. I think Mega Beedrill got special attack taken out, so it could get more and more attack and speed than it otherwise feasibly could. So if you really wanted to go in that direction, you would just produce some insane monstrosity. Like I'm gonna give Garchomp, or not Garchomp, that already has Mega. I'm gonna give Terrakion a Mega and take out all its special attack. And then since it has whatever special attack stat, then I have, let's say 75 extra base. That seems too high. It has 60 extra base stat points to tack onto its attack, and suddenly you have this 230 attack monster with a million speed, that kind of thing. So I would have to leave it reasonable. So I would say that Marowak. I think Marowak is really cool. Something that would take place of Thick Club. So a Thick Club themed Mega for Marowak would be extremely cool. I would give it... I guess I would cheat a little and take out a little special attack, but not a lot. I wouldn't make its special attack go down to like 5. Take out a little just so it can get more, not more HP, but a little more in defenses, more speed, and obviously its attack stat has to reflect Thick Club. So something like that I think would be extremely cool. Whether regular Marowak or Alolan Marowak, I think just traditional Marowak, but yeah, Marowak would be my choice. So if in terms of the specifics of the base stat total, then use your imagination, but enough to make it a viable OU contender. So bulky enough, strong enough obviously, and maybe just fast enough. What's the most fishing rod? What's the most viable BL or lower tier Pokemon in each generation of OU? What BLs do you think deserve to move up or down? Wow. Okay. Well, we're gonna fire up Showdown for this. All right. RBY. I just want to check what is BL. BL doesn't even exist in RBY, so we're sticking strictly with UU. Victreebel actually got moved up. It used to be BL until a couple of years ago. So, it's a good question. I guess Dugtrio not Dugtrio. Dugtrio's awful. Dragonite because Rap is nonsense and potentially ban-worthy, even though Dragonite is UU. So I guess that kind of has to be it. Golem is another answer because it dropped a UU in the same move that I think moved Victreebel to OU, because Rhydon is just superior, but Golem still has a real niche in OU, so I guess it would have to be that because it's a rock type and it explodes. So yeah, and I don't see there's anything else. So it's definitely one of Golem or Dragonite for sure. And I like stuff like Clefable, but it's definitely not as good as those guys. Ooh, Articuno is a good choice too. So Articuno, Dragonite, Golem in Gen 1. And Gen 2, then let's just do it like this. Alright, let's just go to the Ruins of Alfroom just to get this out of the way. Yeah, sorry you don't see the sprites, but hopefully this will be enough. Alright, so BL. Charizard is great because Belly Drumzard is great. Espeon's really threatening. It might go to Espeon. Houndoom has a real niche as pursuing Exeggutor and Jinx. Jolteon has Baton Pass stuff. I would say Moltres is pretty good. Scizor, Smeargle. I would say the most viable of these is Espeon for sure. Espeon or Houndoom, and of those, Espeon. Espeon's really good. As for UU stuff, there's not really that much UU stuff that gets used in OU, so... I mean, Quagsire is pretty good, but it doesn't top Espeon. So, yeah, Gen 2, Espeon. Gen 3, well, this is going to be tough. The easy answer for Gen 3 BL is definitely going to be Breloom or Charizard, because those have the most legitimate niches. I mean, there's other stuff like Blaziken and Houndoom and Hariyama and Jumpluff and Jinx and Kingdra. Kingdra's really good. And Machamp and, all these other guys. So, yeah, Advance has a... I did not mean to click on Scizor. But... yeah, so Breloom and Charizard are the obvious answers for BL. And as for UU, I think Camerupt is going to be the best of the bunch. Don't think there's much of anything else that we're really going to be seeing here. Yeah, not really. I mean, the occasional Rain Dance Omastar, but nothing really beyond. So, yeah. Cacturn for NU, obviously, too. Stupid Cacturn. But yeah, Breloom and Charizard, the best ones. For Gen 4, well, the obvious answers are Clefable. From BL, then... Tough question, actually. Abomasnow is probably the most slappable, though. Yeah, definitely Abomasnow. Abomasnow or Heracross, but overall Abomasnow. Although Heracross is really underrated. Raiku's pretty good, but Obama or Hera. As for UU, then we all know that if the modern day had usage stats, Clefable would be OU, and Dugtrio would too, and Milotic would be maybe. I don't know that it gets used quite... I think Milotic is great in OU. I just don't know that it gets used quite enough to be taken out of UU. So, going back to the earlier question about usage stuff, then there's no reason to upend DPP UU by taking Milo, Clef, and Doug out of them. So, yeah. So, but since those these three are pretty much honorary OU, as is NU's Nidoqueen, then you would, so, let's see, that's NU, and, yeah, so, and NUBL, there's nothing, because it's Entei and Espeon, and then Hippopotas and Snover, so, beyond the honorary OUs, because those are honorary OU, and that's not really much of an answer, I would say, let's see, here's UU, Donphan is pretty good, actually, stuff like Hariyama has a niche barely. Oh, I forgot to say Lantern in Gen 3. Obviously, how foolish of me. Apologies. Mesprit is pretty good. Moltres has a fun niche, but... Rhyperior? Historically, it's definitely Uxie or Venusaur, though. So I'm going to say beyond the honorary OUs, then definitely Uxie for Gen 4. UU, specifically. And as for NU, then I don't think there's anything else in NU you would really use. Oh, Gastrodon. Yeah, of course. Gastrodon is great. So, yes, Gastrodon from NU and Uxie from UU. Nothing else in here. I mean, Slowking has a pretty decent niche, but it's still underused and fairly specific. So, yeah. Gen 5. Was a question from Gen 1 through 5? Okay, we're going to go with 1 through 5. Sorry, because I'm not really sure about... Well, I'll do Gen 6 too. Okay, so OU by technicality, all this stuff is junk. UUBL, Kyurem is pretty good actually, so that's the clear candidate there. Because the other stuff, Staraptor is fun. Heist had a team with that was pretty fun, but nothing beyond that. UU, let's see, not much. Empoleon, I guess. Not really. Technically. Mew is pretty good. Yeah, I guess it's going to have to be Mew or Mienshao. Although Mienshao really got hurt by the influx of Protect, so not so much anymore. For a while it was really dangerous, but... Yeah, I'm going to say that it's definitely going to be Mew. Oh, Tornadus! Obviously Tornadus. I forgot that was in UU. So yeah, Tornadus is the obvious choice. So... As for RU and below, then Amoonguss is the obvious choice. Nothing else, really. So, yeah, not much. Oh, Moltres is actually pretty good on rain teams with Hurricane stuff. Sub-Roost Hurricane Will-O-Wisp is a pain. Nothing else, really. I don't know where Quagsire's time in Gen 5 is long gone. Slowking is great. But overall from RU as a whole, then it's got to be Amoonguss just because of the whole Keldeo factor. And from NU, Alomomola, is probably better than its usage would imply, but not in a great place right now. Although that said, it's probably got some stuff to be explored with. And other than that, not really. Golurk, is a Terrakion counter, but beyond that, no. And Terrakion isn't the most pressing threat, which is crazy how dangerous it is, but... nothing else really, so there you go. Untiered stuff, not really either, so... And finally for Gen 6, then I'm gonna say... BL, the Zams are obvious contenders. Actually, I don't see how it could be anything other than the Zams. Yeah, they're crazy, so... I mean, Diggersby and stuff is fun, but... yeah. As for UU, then it's probably something very obvious that I'll see as soon as I get to it. CBB used Empoleon, but I don't know much about that beyond that, so... Oh, Hydreigon. Definitely Hydreigon. Hydreigon is excellent in Oris OU. I love that thing. So yes, absolutely Hydreigon and nothing else. You know, RU, BL stuff, nothing really. Some people liked Spexcurum a few years ago, but it's not too big anymore. And from RU itself, nothing really. I'm skimming, so I might miss something. Oh, Jellicent, obviously. Yeah, Jellicent is great. And other than that, not really. And then NU, I'm doubtful. Gastrodon. How did Gastrodon end up all the way in NU? Yeah, Gastrodon's the clear choice. I don't know how anything else could beat it. So, yeah, alright. Back to Discord. Thank you for your question. C1. Oh boy. Outside of DPPUU, as that is the one that gets the most attention, what are your top 3 Gens 1-6 lower tier? So UU through LC, you can count a UUBL if you really want to. I won't be counting UUBL because I don't play any of them. Because they're not really tiers. Advanced BL is the one that comes closest. Some people actually play that tier. And it seems pretty fun, but none of that for me. So I gotta say, DPP Ubers, no Arceus. I love that tier so much. Then I really love Advanced UU and Ubers. I think those tiers are wonderful as well. Ubers sometimes actually kind of annoys me with how powerful the Latias twins are, or the Lati twins are. So, actually no, I'm sorry, I'm going to take that back. It's going to be Advanced UU and Gen 5 RU. I love Black and White RU. I really, really, really love it. I mean, it's hard because this means I'm leaving off stuff like Advanced Ubers and Black and White UU and Black and White Ubers. And I like GSC UU too a lot, but my top 3 are DPP Ubers, Black and White RU, and Advanced UU. So, thoughts on Yanmega and DPP? You know, surprisingly good. It's not a gimmick. I wouldn't be... Like, you could feasibly bring one to a tournament game. Not a super important tournament game. You know, if you lose your season... if you lose your elimination game because you brought Yanmega, then you would be crucified, and for good reason. But yeah, during the season, why not? Yeah, I think it's definitely got potential. You know, tinted lens. You know, speed boost stuff is whatever, but tinted lens is nasty. That's what you got to be running. Specs, modest specs. 3. What are your thoughts on doubles formats, and could we ever see anything related to them from you in the future? Honestly, I'm not really crazy about doubles as a whole. I don't like how it plays. So, the closest you're going to get to doubles from me, besides, you know, Pokemon Coliseum or XD fun stuff, is going to be... I was planning on going to Worlds this year, and I was going to meet a bunch of Spogan guys there, because I've done that before. It's a blast. So that's as close as you're probably going to get from me in the future, you know, if everything goes back to normal. So... yeah, sorry to disappoint, but I'm just not crazy on doubles. I love in-game doubles. They're a lot of fun. That's one of the reasons why I like Coliseum and XD so much, but competitive-wise, not crazy about them. Non-invasive weeb. If your Pokemon, what type would you be, and what role would you play in OU? Regarding my role, I would definitely be some sort of defensive, stealth-rocking stopgap to threats. So that's what I see myself as. Either that or Pursuit, but I think more Stealth Rock kind of stuff, because I'd love me some Stealth Rock. Or Spikes, if there's no Stealth Rock in that gen. And if it's RBY, then I guess I'm probably just going to be Tauros, because like Coolio said, my ability would be Anger Point, and I realize there are no abilities in Gen 1, but Tauros gets Anger Point in later gens, so I don't see a problem with it transferring. So... Cole49, where's the next Movies with the Kids upload dingus? For those who don't know, Movies with the Kids is a channel where me and a couple of my real-life buddies watch movies and give our thoughts. Most of them are pretty dumb movies, so we're just kind of messing around. But recently, me and my pal did the new Charlie Kaufman movie, I'm Thinking of Ending Things. So, you know, we have to watch a serious film, serious cinema sometimes. So yeah, it's up. Although, you know, since we just really do it for fun, then we don't have a set schedule. So, yeah. Triangles. If you had to choose any celebrity to spend a night of pleasure with, who would it be? Thank you for the important questions, Triangles. Well, if I had to, and my girlfriend was okay with it, of course, because I love her above all else, then my answer would definitely be Lily James, which I'm pretty sure she knows. So, I do love me some Lily James. She is wonderful. The first time I saw Baby Driver, I was like, whoa. Lily James is the reason why I unironically like Mamma Mia 2. Here we go again. Ah, what charm. So, yeah, that's my answer. Tennis. What Pokemon do you think is most likely to own a gun? Braviary, obviously. If you even have to ask about that, then you need a crash course in some good old-fashioned American patriotism. That was a joke, by the way. But Braviary would definitely own a gun. Or, because, is there anything more American than Braviary? I just explained the joke. God damn it. Well, I'm not editing or re-recording this, so... There you go! Triangles always has the most fire questions. He really does, doesn't he? If you had to spend a night of pleasure with any advanced boomer, who would it be? Well, I hear Callus has a rather enlarged member, so, how can you go wrong with that? So, Bikino, what unused type combination would you like to see in the future? I am really looking forward to normal/ghost. Great question. Legitimately great. I was going to say electric and poison, and then I realized our Lord and Savior, Toxtricity. God, that Pokemon is so awesome. If I were to play Sword and Shield OU, I'd use so much Toxtricity. Just because it's so cool. Yeah, let's say... Fire, electric, and, would be, or grass electric are cool. Technically, the Rotom forms occupy them, but they don't really count, So, but I guess if you're going to be stingy about those, then... We have a new electric ice type, don't we? So, now we actually have Stab Bolt Beam, but I'm pretty sure that Pokemon is terrible. So, something cool with poison. Poison ice, maybe. Oh, yeah, that sounds brutal. Do we have a fire ice Pokemon? We probably... No, I don't think we do, so fire ice, obviously. You can get some freeze burn stuff going on there. And beyond that, then I'm gonna say something cool with Dragon always works. Dragon Bug. Dragon Bug sounds awesome. So, yeah, those are my answers. Under the Hexium, what OU Pokemon is most like bringing a knife to a gunfight? So I assume you're talking about Gen 4 because you go on to mention Electivire and Vaporeon. So I'm going to say probably... Well, if you're talking just OU Pokemon, then probably Dusknoir. Dusknoir really isn't worth it. I know he's so cool and he's a big part of Mystery Dungeon 2, which I love, but he's just not worth it. So I guess like that. That said, there are definitely some guys who would... I realize this is purposely going against the spirit of the question, but there are definitely guys who would kill guys with guns with knives. Like, if you've ever seen the martial arts movie The Raid Redemption, you absolutely should. Mad Dog in that. I would definitely trust him with a knife against a guy with a gun. Good lord, that guy. So, yeah. Panda76, an opinion on Czechia versus Czech Republic debate. I don't like the name Czechia. Prefer Czech Republic. And I just don't like how Czechia sounds. On the Hexium. Who is the new best player to never win an individual since Solon finally won a much-deserved trophy? Well, besides the clear answer of Passy G, the answer is very obviously the Grand Babito, or Babidi 98, or Heist, depending on how you know him. I think he was the clear candidate before Solon kind of took over that mantle, and now that Solon has that mantle, or now that Solon has his trophy, then it goes right back to him. I don't think you can name anyone more accomplished than him who also does not have an individual trophy. Yep, Steve Nash. I'm a big fan of Steve Nash. I like the way he plays the game. I'm always a big fan of passing-centric stuff in basketball. Is that the end of my playlist? No, I added a bunch of stuff for you guys. DC Gainery. Oh, just Gainery. Is the Charles Bridge in Prague really as hype as people say? Yes, it is. It's great. It's fantastic. Walking across it late at night is wonderful. On a further note, what is one thing that you see tourists doing that annoys the shit out of you? Is this a Pokemon remix? Oh, it's more Mirror B stuff. Wonderful. So, tourists just being in the way and being very unaware of their surroundings. I don't mind tourists coming and seeing the city. That would be a dumb thing to not like. But I really dislike when there's humongous crowds of people very unaware of how much space they're taking up, and it's really a pain to get through them. So I'll give an example. There's this one place I love to eat in Prague, and it is located next to a Hooters. And once I was going to eat there, and there was a crowd of 30, 40-ish Americans. I'm not exaggerating. It was at least 30, just outside the Hooters waiting to get in. And I really had to pretend like I didn't speak English so I could make them feel guilty about disturbing the locals. Because, to their credit, most tourists don't want to actually get in the way of the locals. It's just that very often they're unaware of their impact. So, but that's my biggest complaint. A lot of people in the city center have actually been complaining recently about tourists being really, really loud. And so, just last week I saw a sign that said, "Tourists, we love having you here. Please enjoy the city. But, when it's late at night, try and keep it down. Try and not scream throughout the streets." So, yeah. Red Glitch Fox, if you can give 20 stat points to any one Pokemon in the game to buff them, who would it be and for what stat? And also, why? God, this is not an easy quancer. That's a question answer. It's not an easy answer to give off the top of my head, or not an easy question to answer off the top of my head, which is what I was originally trying to say. So, what Pokemon would I want buffed? Let's say Toxtricity. Yeah, of course. Give it even more power. Yeah, why would I not give it a Toxtricity? It's so cool. So, more speed if he needs it. More special attack just for ultimate punk rock power. So, yeah. Aguilar, has Soul Duelist Latias ever been considered to be tested in Advanced OU? Would it... So let's answer one question at a time. Not seriously. It has not seriously been considered to be tested in Advanced OU. Some people have played around with it, like on Pokemon Perfect, Disaster Area, and some other guys were playing around with it, like Cowboy Dan, I remember, really enjoyed the metagame. But it has not seriously been considered for OU. Would it have been in the tier? What could it do? Well, Latias is a Spikes immune Pokemon with Gengar's speed, but a lot more bulk than Gengar. 32 PP recover, 32 PP refresh, and Calm Mind, and a stab move with 1 resist and no immunities, and Dragon Claw. So, yeah, it would have been a very fast, very bulky offensive and defensive Calm Minder who was resilient to damage, resilient to status, resilient to passive damage. So, yeah, Latias would be insanely good. Maybe not the most broken thing in the universe, but I don't think it would be a positive presence at all. It would be really good. It's kind of like in GSC. No, Ho-Oh and Celebi are not better than Snorlax in OU, but we also don't want them in the tier. It would just not have a good impact. The old generations are weird that way. So, which Pokemon benefit from Latias and who will hate Latias? Oh, well... Look at ADV Ubers. So, Metagross, Blissey become even more important. They gotta tweak their movesets, like Snatch Blissey for Calm Mind, or Toxic Snatch for Refresh. So, it's nice because it hovers above Spikes, so Spikes teams both have the issue of having to deal with the Spikes immune threat and enjoy having another Pokemon that abuses Spikes because none of its counters are, besides Skarmory, who's not even a counter because it has Thunderbolt too. All its other counters are grounded, so it's outlasting its checks. You can't even Pursuit it well because, first of all, T-Tar gets hit hard by Dragon Claw. Second of all, it has Calm Mind, and Pursuit is special, and special defense is enormous, so it just doesn't die. So, yeah, lots of spikes, lots of tweaking for it on already used Pokemon. So, was it going to be overpowered? I don't think Latias would make you see Pokemon that you don't see you use a lot of, that don't already get used. Because you look at Advanced Ubers and, it's a lot of Snorlaxes and Regice and Metagross and Blissey. So, Pokemon that already get used in OU. I mean, maybe we see more Regice, but that's another reason why Latias is so unhealthy. In Ubers, then there's no permanent sand wearing down Snorlax and Regice, so they can actually check it throughout the course of a game pretty well. And in OU, then of course that's not the case. So you would not be seeing UU Pokemon rising up to counter Latias. That would not happen. So you're just going to see more special stuff. Like you'd see more Jirachi too, for example. So you're just going to see a boost in some specific OU Pokemon. I don't think it's going to knock anything out of you. I mean, okay, it hurts Suicune and Zapdos a little, but nothing that can't be managed, I don't think. Maybe, I'm not sure. But, yeah, this is an interesting video, or interesting topic for a video. Again, I guess I can just look to these questions if I'm ever in need of a video idea. So, I hope that was detailed enough. Maybe if not, then I'll just do another video about this. So, yeah, Mess gave a good answer. So, yeah, see. Peachy Flash, thoughts on terrain's competitive impact. It's interesting. I like what it does. I think it's an interesting dynamic. Allows for some creative ways of dealing with stuff. Like, I always liked Garchomp being good against Toxapex alongside Tapu Fini, so it couldn't be Scald Burned. I really like that. So, yeah. NCH Max, my friend Jimmy from the playground will trade me back my Golem. I traded it to him the other day at Reese's and he was supposed to give it right back after it evolves, but now he says he's going to keep it because he needs a mod and can use Rock Smash to beat the game. I wanted to tell the teacher, but Jimmy's dad works at Nintendo, and he said that if a tattle, he'd get his dad to erase my entire game. I'm like, super far, I got 5 badges, so I definitely don't want that to happen, but I think he's being really unfair. What should I do? It's about Sapphire version. I think you need to steal Jimmy's Game Boy and trade back the Golem, and then give it back to him, and then go into hiding so Jimmy's dad can't find you. You might need to move, but I think it's worthwhile just to get your Golem. So, good luck. Pizza Burger 28. When experimenting with an unexplored Pokemon and end tier, do you find yourself being optimistic in trying to discover said Pokemon's niche, or are you quicker to dismiss a mon as either useless or just outclassed? Great question. I'm definitely more on the pessimistic side. Mainly because I really, really hate when people go into tournament games going, oh, well, I'm going to try this underrated Pokemon or underrated set, and it's very clearly not on par with the other OU Pokemon. I really have a distaste for that. So I have a high standard for what I consider good or tournament worthy. So I'm definitely I really make the Pokemon prove that it is good rather than being like, oh, well, this Pokemon from NU won 1 game for me, so it's clearly a top threat. So I would definitely not. I'm definitely more on the pessimistic side. I try not to be closed-minded, though, because I know the next innovation is right around the corner, and we'll never see it coming before it happens. And then after it's happened, then it'll seem so obvious. But I definitely have a high threshold, which might close me off to some stuff. But at the same time, it also makes sure that I'm not using junk. And I think that's surprisingly forgotten in a lot of tournaments. People are willing to use a bunch of silly stuff, and it really bites them in the ass. So I don't have that problem. I should be a little more open-minded to trying new Pokemon, but for the most part, I think it's good to have high standards. So, what is your favorite new addition / mechanic that anyone Gen has brought which improves or makes playing mons more enjoyable or interesting? Good question. I guess I do like Team Preview, mainly because it's easier to just kind of autopilot, I guess. Because in Gen 3 and 4, it's harder to autopilot, and because to be really good in those generations, then it's not, then you really have to be focusing. Look, I'm not saying that only geniuses can play those tiers. That's obviously not the case. And you can autopilot in them, but it's not as easy as in the newer generations with Team Preview, combined with a lot of switch moves and, heavy hitters. So sometimes, when you just want to take it easy, it's nice to play a Team Preview gen where you can just Volt Switch on out of something and then launch a Choice Banded attack. And it's going to land. So, or a Choice Specs attack, or, a hit with a Mega Pokemon, whatever. So, I enjoy that simplicity. It makes it more enjoyable, makes it less high maintenance, I guess. In terms of the pure competitive factor, then I do like Team Preview as well, just because it brings a different dimension to how the game is played. But I don't know. Addition, I guess, can also be stuff like Stealth Rock, so I do like what Stealth Rock brought to the game. It's an interesting question. I'd have to think a lot about it, but for now, I do like what Team Preview brings, and in a sense that it also makes me value the lack of Team Preview in earlier generations more. So I think it's good on both sides. You have your Team Preview, which has an interesting dynamic that rewards skill, but is also easier to just hop in and just have fun with. And then you have your earlier generations, which, yeah, you can also hop in and have fun with, but the lack of Team Preview brings another dimension to it. So, or not another dimension, just a different kind of dimension to it. So, Luke, you have a cheeseburger. What do you put on it? Well, I don't really eat cheeseburgers nowadays, but ketchup. I'm a ketchup guy. Nothing else. When I used to get cheeseburgers, then I would say ketchup, meat, and cheese. I don't want anything else. And I would get really upset if they put lettuce or some nonsense on it. Beats Black, do you wish we still had base 140 Overheat, Draco, Leaf Storm, and 120 Hydro Thunder? There's a really interesting thing about this in that the same generation where all the, we think we get a huge power creep with the Megas in Gen 6, but at the same time, Flamethrower, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, that stuff gets nerfed. Overheat and Draco get nerfed. Surf gets nerfed as well. Hydro gets nerfed to 110. And even Hidden Power. So as a result of all those moves getting these tiny little, nerfs, then Specially Defensive Gliscor becomes the most unkillable thing on the planet. And you could see this when people try to recreate Specially Defensive Gliscor in Black and White. And it just doesn't work because Hidden Power hits so much harder. And Draco and Surf hit so much harder. And then you go to Gen 6 and it's shrugging them off like nothing. So that's really interesting. So in that sense, I guess, I'm usually opposed to immense amounts of power creep. But given the amount of humongous defensive stuff with Toxapex, then I think we almost need it, So yeah, I guess I wish we still did have those higher base powers. Although in Oris, not in Oris because Keldeo is already way too good. But in Sun and Moon, then yeah, absolutely. So I realize I'm being a little picky and choosy. And if I had to say, none or both, then I'll just say both. But actually, you know what? I'm gonna take that back and say none. I don't know, no, because Gliscor is not nearly as bad as Toxapex, so yeah, I'm definitely going to say more. At the end of Joe, in the same vein as my Darkrai question, would you ever be up for resuspecting Chlorophyll in Black and White? Since we've never tried a metagame with that Chlorophyll Sun without Dugtrio, its abusers were never as dangerous as those of Swift Swim and Sand Rush, and some of its main abusers have lost a valuable move in Sleep Powder. Would you think that it would still be too much for the tier to handle? Yeah, okay, I don't think that it would be too much necessarily, but I don't think it's a good addition to the metagame. And actually, you know what? Actually, the more I think about it, no, I don't think that. I don't like that there's even more reason to run Weather. I mean, we've just started to see the success of weatherless teams, and I don't think that adding Venusaur and Victreebel back is the answer to that. So I just don't like the speed boosting abilities as a whole. And the most dangerous Venusaur set didn't even run Sleep Powder. It was Growth, Giga, Sludge, HP Fire. So, and with Victreebel, then the power was in its coverage as well, because it would run Weather Ball. And so Weather Ball for Fire and HP Ice for Ice. So, yeah, I'm just not crazy about the speed boosting abilities as a whole, so I would not want to do it. Yeah, okay, then you don't risk T-Tar and Heatran getting trapped anymore, but I just don't like the idea of... I mean, Black and White can be a volatile metagame as is, and I don't like introducing even more into that chaos. I think it's a good kind of chaos right now, but I don't think it is worth the upheaval for Chlorophyll. Because now you're just going to introduce more and more matchup games, which I am opposed to. So, you think you're good with your Heatran, and then Venusaur pulls out Earthquake, and you're just scrambling. I'm not a fan at all. So, I could see why without Dugtrio and with Sleep, if there was ever a time to bring back Chlorophyll, it would be now. And I wouldn't be heartbroken if that happened, but I don't believe it's a good thing to have back. Tomahawk, can you talk a bit about DPP Uber / do a video? Okay, this is way too much for me to answer here. But, so I would love to do DPP Ubers. I just want Farseus, which is what Arceus is referred to because it wasn't allowed on Shoddy. And because it was only not available until the end. By that point, it was too late. And so it was a farce to have Arceus and Ubers. So, favorite teams? Just to be brief, I love Jabaku's Vulcan Fury from back in the day. That was the team that inspired me to pick up Ubers. I also really like August's Henry. That was a great one. Favorite players? Jabaku. There's no beating Jabaku. August was really good in his heyday. I loved how Theorymon would toy around with the dumbest stuff. So, nowadays, I think Hack is incredible at it. Cool games. I can't name this off the top of my head, unfortunately. The UPL, the Ubers Premier League, we had like 6 years ago. There were a lot of good DPP ones, but ever since then, I'm not really remembering much. Oh, Iris for DPP as well. I always admired his commitment to the tier and his willingness to push the envelope. Underrated Pokemon? Oh, God. Garchomp. Yeah. Garchomp is ridiculous. Doesn't get used nearly as much as he should. Both Scarf and SD sets alike. So, and yeah. Farseus, it just ruins the tier. Ruins the dynamics. I don't like Arceus. Don't add it. Get rid of it. So, that's it. I would love to do DPP Ubers, but it deserves its own video for more detail. Purple. Which Pokemon would you say are probably the worst in OU for Gens 1 through 5 out of all the Pokemon that are actually listed as OU? So, let's go back to Showdown and Gen 1. Who's the worst in OU? Gengar is an option. Yeah, Gengar. Gengar out of all these definitely has the... Actually, I hate Slowbro. I think Slowbro sucks because it's just slow and gets boomed on and gets crit. And so I'm going to say Slowbro. I think it's just awful. Gengar at least has mid-game value, and Sleep and Fast Explosion are valuable. So, yeah. Gen 2... Tough answer. I personally hate Steelix. So I'm going to say Steelix, just because I personally hate it. I guess Miltank has seen better days, so if I had to just put aside my personal hate for a second, it'd probably be Miltank. I'm also not the biggest fan of Starmie, but you know, Miltank I think is clearly the least viable of the OU list nowadays. So, yeah, Gen 3. Porygon 2? No, Regice. Yeah, I've argued Regice to BL before. I just think I think it has its place, but I don't think it's a real OU Pokemon. Gen 4, this is, you know, kind of you have the easy answers of, you know, like, oh wait, that's what the OUA Technical, oh, they did that, that's great. Okay, the stuff that remains in OU, probably Weavile. Weavile or, yeah, Weavile, definitely Weavile. Gen 5, this is going to be like Haxorus or something. Yeah, Celebi has its place. Cloyster, I guess. Yeah, Cloyster is stupid. Cloyster, Espeon. Yeah, no, actually, Espeon is worse. Espeon. Yeah, Espeon is looking like the worst so far. I mean, Lucario's not great either. And so, neither's Infernape and stuff, but yeah, I'm going to say Espeon is definitely the worst of this bunch. Everything else, even Vaporeon, has a niche. Was that just through 1.5? Yeah, okay. Hello, fellow humans. What is your favorite RU or below Pokemon to use in any gens, OU, or Ubers? Well, RU only started existing in Gen 5, so I guess we'll go right back to Gen 5. UU? Let's see something creative, because Amoonguss is a cheating answer. I mean, Moltres is pretty cool. Slowking's pretty cool. Not really seeing... Was it RU or below? Yeah, RU or below. So I'm not really seeing anything I would love using in OU besides, you know, Moltres. So I guess I can check Gen 6, but let's check NU. Is there anything here? Something usable in Ubers would be really cool. Yeah, alright, let's check Gen 6. Are you... Mola's pretty good in OU. For those of you who are wondering what the music is, because it's awesome, then, as I said in my last video, then check out the background music playlist on my channel. It's what everything you're hearing is on. I think the way the dimensions are set up, yes, you can see it here on the screen. So, whoops, no, we're going back to Showdown. Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything that would be usable in Ubers right now. I guess Gastron, is Gastron NU? Well, no, this isn't Gen 5. And Gastron is OU in Gen 5, so that kind of ruins it. It used to be RU. So, nothing quite in OU either. I mean, RU is... Oh, wait, Quillfish in Gen 5, I guess? Well, it's not really good in Ubers like it was in Gen 4, so it doesn't really count. Yeah, I'm gonna have to say... Oh, Bronzong. Bronzong in Ubers is pretty good. Because it handles Xerneas. I don't know. I don't really have a confident answer to this question. I'll go back to Gen 5 just to check. Quagsire is not really that good in Ubers or OU. Oh, Omastar in Gen 5 Ubers, of course. Specs Omastar in Gen 5 Ubers is a blast. Yeah, definitely Omastar. Alright. CEO of Dracovish, what is the best Pokemon name in your opinion? For instance, Bisharp is a Bishop and Sharp, or Exploud is Loud, or how Pincurchin is a Pink Urchin with... Or is it Pink Urchin, I guess? With Recover and Regenerator and what... Oh, that's just Talk Specs. Best Pokemon name? That's a great question. I'm not entirely certain. I would have to say... I'm checking Showdown for this, which is a little too competitively minded for what's supposed to be a kind of cool thing. But off the top of my head, I do really like Hydreigon. Hydreigon is a really, really cool name. Because of the whole triple-headed, the Hydra German factor. So, I do like that. Hail Hydra. Also, do you hang your toilet paper over or under? Over, obviously. Nchmax, in a world where Magneton never got an evolution, how long do you think it would have taken for it to drop from OU? Gen 4. You know, trapping Skarmory is nice, but it would not have been an OU Pokemon without it. Magnezone has actual bulk, and the extra power and bulk helps with trap Jirachi, where Magneton is just increasingly helpless against it. So, yeah, Gen 4. Still got 99 thoughts on XYRU. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to disappoint you. I don't have any thoughts on Gen 6 RU, or especially XY. I barely remember Oris, let alone XY. So, sorry to disappoint. I don't really remember it. Guzzlord's my favorite Pokemon ever, from Noal FTDW. Guzzlord's my favorite Pokemon ever, stinks at most intimidating, scariest. Ultra Beast is the weakest one competitively. What would you give or change about him without completely overhauling his stat spread to make him better overall? Change I was thinking that would utilize his unique aspects would be give him a move that scales and damage off his maximum HP stat. Well, then you have the problem of Water Spout, and with Guzzlord being pretty slow, if I recall, let's switch over to Gen 7. Yeah, it's slow as hell. I think you just gotta give it more power, which I think makes sense. Maybe give it a signature move that, you know, has some sort of good flavor to it regarding its gigantic mouth and non-stomach, and some extra bulk wouldn't hurt either. So, what's that max HP stat? It's like, whew, yikes. But yeah, you gotta give it some more power and some more bulk, I think. So, yeah, and some better moves as well. Ononhexium, a real good guy in the Karate Kid. Never seen the original Karate Kid. I'll have to someday. I know it's supposed to be a great movie, so I just have a lot on my list as is. Third strongest moles. Which of your tournament games are you the most proud of? Well, I'm going to narrow it down to one and just say, okay, I'll give two. My semifinals and finals games of World Cup of Pokemon 2013. And the semifinals, I was up against Logok, a great German player who I'd actually tutored before. And this was right after Landorus Incarnate had been banned from Black and White, and everyone was expecting me to bring my stall team, which was very well known. And because Landorus was one of the few things that actually threatened it, because it was insanely broken, and everyone knew it was coming, and I brought it anyway because I just liked it so much, and it won. And then in finals, I brought the complete opposite. I brought Sun Offense and won the entire tournament for our team, US East. And that was my first trophy, and I was really, really proud of that. Played the game pretty meticulously as well. So, yeah. Hey, BKC, out of the hundreds of usernames you've come across, which ones have been noticeable or favorites of yours? I don't really... Oh, never mind, I do. There was a guy who played Gen 5 RU a long time ago, and his name was Complete Legitimacy. That was really funny. So, yeah, not like much of the cool username types. I'm sure there are some out there, but they just don't instantly come to mind. Ostamatitos is a really cool name, actually. It's got the very menacing foreign blend to it, and it means unstoppable in Greek, or so I'm told. So, Monai, what's your favorite kind of cereal? In the U.S., then I don't even remember what it's called anymore, but nothing too sugary, but it's got to have some sort of flavor to it, Nothing that's just gonna rot your teeth and make you feel fat, but at the same time, nothing that's bland cornflakes. I'm pretty flexible, but I don't have a favorite kind these days. I did when I was a kid. I loved Honey Bunches of Oats. Pure Perfection. What's your favorite shiny Pokemon? Flygon. No question. I love shiny Flygon. Never use regular Flygon. Only in advance, and there even sometimes. Only sometimes. John Madden, what are your thoughts on KFC? I used to love KFC until I realized that I could have chicken that would not be fast food and thus would be a lot better for me overall. I had 2 apartments in a row that just happened to be right next to a KFC, so... I do prefer to McDonald's, though. I definitely prefer KFC chicken, but I haven't had it in a long time, and I don't intend to have it anytime soon. So, yeah, just not crazy about it anymore, but definitely one of my more preferred fast food joints, although I don't really have any preferred fast food joints, but if I had to pick one, it'd probably be KFC. I like Five Guys, but when I'm not in the States, then I don't get Five Guys, so... Thanks for answering the feet question. You're welcome, Maru. Thoughts on Hail and DPPOU? I think dedicated Hail is gimmicky, but Abomasnow itself is really good. It counters some really annoying Pokemon and can be really difficult to deal with smart use of its Leech Seed set. Smart use meaning aggressive play and good teammates and good EV spreads and movesets according to the team. Like if your team is great against Clefable, maybe you can use a more specially defensive Abomasnow, but if your team really needs to break through Clefable, you want more attack investment, so your Wood Hammers slam it so it doesn't just absorb your Leash Hail combo. Abysmal, are there any local food restaurants or markets in Prague that you like? Yes, my favorite food place that I mentioned earlier is called Havelska Koruna, and it is just a nice, simple Czech food restaurant. Czech restaurant specializing in Czech food. It's great. It's got my favorite schnitzel and anything else you could desire. It's in a good spot. It's cheap, which is surprising considering where it is, right in the center. So I do really enjoy that one. And yeah, that's the big one. That's the big one. Adib, thoughts on Power Metal? I don't love Power Metal as a whole, like Nightwish and Sonata Arctica. That kind of stuff is just not for me. I don't like the more grandiose, epic style. It just doesn't do much for me. I mean, I can dig some Camelot on occasion. I think the Black Halo is a good album, but by and large, it's not a style for me. I do like some early power metal, though. Like, there's this band from Italy, Adramelk, who have this album, Ire Melanox, which is not just the best power metal album I've ever heard, but one of the best metal albums I've heard, period. So I recommend any power metal fan to pick that up. And I also like Jag Panzer. They're fantastic. American power metal band that really puts emphasis on the power. It's a very muscular album. And then there's the Weird Lord, or the Lord Weird Slugfeg. I don't know how to say that name, but Slougfeg. And then the Lord Weird sometimes. They're really great too. And Halloween, of course, I think they're fantastic. So I like stuff more in that vein. More of a heavy metal vibe than the orchestrated, overtly epic stuff. So, follow up from Monohexium: Popeyes or Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich? Well, I don't have any of these here in Prague, but if I have to pick one in the States, I don't remember. I've tried both, and both of the time they were just like, yeah, okay. But I don't remember having the chicken sandwich, so I'm even less qualified to answer this question. Beats Black, Pokemon spin-off game most deserving of a new installment. Mystery Dungeon because it's always the best. Actually, no, I take that back. Coliseum or XD, we need a third, obviously. We get a lot of Mystery Dungeons, whereas Coliseum and XD have been unfairly left hung out to dry unfairly. Jesus Christ. This is what happens when I yammer too much and I haven't had dinner yet. So I'm going to have to do that as soon as I get through all these wonderful questions. Have you ever had hydrogen peroxide? That was badly phrased, so yeah, whatever. Harbinger, if Salmus is the best choice band user in advance, does that make Shelgon the second best? Of course it does. You know it. And yes, Bagon is the third best. Magikarp, Blissey stuff. Murkit, in your opinion, what are the best things to do to prepare for a tournament match? Be well practiced with your team. This is very important, so you're not figuring stuff out on the fly. Be well practiced with your team. This means that when you get into the tournament battle, it's just another game with a team that you're familiar with. So you get in there and you've done this before. You can do it. That helps a lot. Also helps to be aware of your opponent's general tendencies. I'm not saying for every single tournament game you need to run an extreme scout and spend 7 entire days preparing. But if you know your opponent likes stuff that one of your team struggles with, maybe veer away from that. But just be generally aware. Be ashamed to lose to something your opponent likes to bring just because you weren't aware of it. I mean, if your opponent beats you with something they like to bring just because they were better, nothing wrong with that. But you have to be reasonably prepared. But overall, I would say just being well practiced with your team goes a really long way. Just so it's you know what to do against your opponent's Pokemon. They are not going to be doing stuff that you haven't seen, at least in some capacity, before. And that makes it a lot easier. So, here's a bunch of talk about bad choice banders. Calc 1, I'm really saddened by the retirement/absence of Bengay and how he could have impacted or innovated Sword and Shield. Which player do you miss the most / think could have had a profound impact on a certain metagame if they remained active? I always loved Heist's approach. Heist could sometimes be a little too gimmicky, but a lot of his gimmicks, or seeming gimmicks, have become metagame standards. I mean, a lot of people don't know this. He was the guy who invented Assault Vest Azumarill, and no, not Azumarill, Tornadus Therian in XY. It was not used before him. He came up with that set. So, lots of credit to him for that. And, Black and White and DPP, he innovated a ton. Even had a little in advance, but those were his main metagames, 4 and 5. So I definitely him. Great question. I really enjoy these types. Calamity Grid, how do you feel about each best Pokemon in each past generations? I guess this is saying, do I think they need to be banned? Because I don't. I would not ban Tauros in RBY, or Snorlax in GSC, or T-Tar in Advance, or Jirachi in DPP, or... what's even the best? Latios in Black and White is a different question. But even then, I might not. Not sure. But yeah. So, or Gen 6. What would you even consider the best? Oh, Clefable? No, I wouldn't ban Clefable in Gen 6. So, and I like using them, so I think that covers both possibilities of this question. You become the Frontier Brain for the facility of your choice. Which one do you pick and why? This is a great question. I admit I'm not as well-versed in the Frontier as I should be, because it's awesome, but I gotta say, I think I would stick with the Battle Tower for its simplicity. I've never been much of a frills guy, and just the whole, let's call it OU, the OU factor, just winning games over and over, getting higher and higher up until you face the main guy, that feels like the most up my wheelhouse. That said, when the Smogon Frontier was a thing, then I was the Castle Valet. So I thought that was pretty fun. So you can assign me to that facility. Is that the Battle Factory? I think it is. It's either that or it's the one in the castle. I know that. And the one where you get to see your opponent's Pokemon? That's not the Battle Factory. It's something else. Battle Castle, obviously. So yeah, you can assign me to that one too. But I think I would pick Battle Tower. King Magikarps. Since competitive meta changes every time, how to adapt to the metagame, I'm going to fill in the English gaps here. So I'm not sure if this is, when the generation shifts, then how do you adapt to it? Because I don't think that's really the question, because that feels pretty easy. You just go along with what's being used in the new generation, because everyone's on equal footing. So, but, if you're talking about how an old metagame changes over time, you just got to stay active and see what's being used, what's effective, and put your own spin on it. And so, if right now in Advance, a lot of people are using Breloom, you got to adapt your teams. You don't want to be Breloom weak. You might want to try out Breloom yourself, see what all the fuss is about. And yeah, it's pretty much as simple as that. You gotta stay on top of things if you want to play at a competitive level. So even in old generations, I'm not saying you have to undergo a complete revamp or rehaul if you've been away from a metagame for a period of time, but you definitely have to be caught up on the latest trends, even in old generations. Beats Black, to your knowledge, what is the most niche Pokemon ever ranked on any generation's OUVR? With the exception of Shedinja, I suppose, if that was applicable. I'll go to Gen 3, because a lot of stuff is ranked in Gen 3. Whoops, no, that's not what I meant to do. I accidentally took an RBY team and... Oh. No, where did my Guzzlord go? Where is... Okay, he's in Gen 7 OU, okay. I'll go to Gen 3. What was ranked in Gen 3? Probably... I don't know, man. It's a tough question. Most stuff that's on even a low VR rank that probably deserves it at least a little. I don't know. Probably like Ursaring and GSC. Yeah, because Ursaring in GSC really is not good at all. Yeah, I'm going to say Ursaring and GSC. It's not good, but, like Snorlax, but with higher attack, which doesn't really do anything, so. Yeah, Ursaring GSC. I know you don't care as much from the Scarlet Oha, I know you don't care as much for Gen 7 and 8, but which theoretical metagame decision would you be more in favor of? Gen 7 banning all Z moves, or Gen 8 deciding to ban Dynamax and allowing Gigantamax, with each G-Max user being tiered separately like Megas were? Definitely banning Z moves. I don't like Z moves at Gen 7. I would not hesitate to remove them. I think that would make a much better metagame. Websters, any idea as to why Japanese players haven't had as big of an impact on Smogon/Showdown as they have on VGC? Do you think it could just be a language barrier thing? Well, I know that Japanese players have played singles in the past, because I know that the Japanese advanced metagame banned Heracross, which I think is kind of cool, actually, but I think it's probably just a language barrier thing, because there aren't a lot of Chinese players on who play singles either. There are a couple, but there are a lot of Chinese players, but they really stick to their own thing as opposed to impacting the larger scene, just because the language barrier is a big thing, because they have an entirely different alphabet, whereas someone from France or Spain, I have a feeling it's a lot easier to adapt the English language. So that's just my theory. I think that's probably why, whereas VGC does not really have that problem. So I really do. Tennis is right. It's probably the language barrier. And Vapicuno expands on that. Vapicuno speaks Chinese, so. Hello, fellow humans. If people know T-Tar has Pursuit, why would they switch? Well, T-Tar it depends on the Pokemon. But assuming you mean a situation like Gengar versus T-Tar and you know the T-Tar is going to Pursuit, so why switch? Well, it depends on the situation, because sometimes you're going to survive the Pursuit. So in Gen 3, if Specially Defensive Gengar lives T-Tar Pursuit and then you dug the T-Tar, why potentially lose your Gengar when you can survive the Pursuit and keep your Gengar around and kill the T-Tar? And in other situations, then T-Tar might die to 2 hits, so it might go for Crunch, and you would predict that and and switch out. So let's say T-Tar's at 50% health and you have an HP Grass Gengar. So if you go for HP Grass, you will 2 a KO the T-Tar, and if it pursues you, you survive it, obviously if you stay in. But if the T-Tar goes for Crunch, then you just die. So if you were predicting the Crunch, then you would switch out, even if you knew the T-Tar has Pursuit. So sometimes switching is definitely the right move to make. Pesta Blanca, bulky Swampert or bulky Slug? Gastrodon is good, but Swampert is the metagame defining Pokemon in DPP for a reason. Assuming this was about DPP. So, hello fellow humans, I know you mean like why not get a bit of damage off before your Pokemon dies. It's not a guarantee that your Pokemon dies. If your Pokemon is guaranteed to die, then yeah, you stay in. Like Latios in Black and White. It's definitely going to die. T-Tar's always going to pursue. But if there's a chance it might not crunch, then that's why. Rampage, thoughts on metalcore bands like Parkway Drive and August Burns Red? I was really into this style when I was a teenager, but over time I really have not, it hasn't had lasting impact for me. I'm not so much a fan of the style anymore. It's just, I more gravitated toward more extreme styles of metal. So instead of metalcore, then I would go to the stuff that inspired those metalcore bands. So, the thrash and death metal that they were building off, and of course they would mix in the melodic Iron Maiden influences as well. So I would just prefer to listen to their influences. There is some good metalcore out there, but it's not in the vein, to me, I still think Parkway Drive has some great songs, but it's not something that, Horizons is a tremendous, tremendous track. But as a whole, the genre overall has lost a lot of appeal for me. So Killswitch Engage and Avenged Sevenfold, while they might have some good tracks, it's just not something I seek out. The melodic metalcore style. I think the really extreme hardcore punk / metal style of Converge, that I really like. Jane Doe is a tremendous album. If you like metalcore, you need to check that album out. But the melodic metalcore stuff that Parkway Drive and August Burns Red and stuff in that vein, then I don't hate it, but it's definitely not been regular listening for me for some time. I gravitate to the different styles of metal. I don't like deathcore either, so, for example. So, Orbital, Kevin, hey, what do you think helped perpetuate Trinitar's staying power and high tier Pokemon or OU throughout each generation? High stats, huge stats across the board, which means good power, good bulk, passable enough speed, and important moves. Stab Pursuit is a big one. That's a pretty simple way of putting it. So, huge stats, immense move pool, and important moves like Stab Pursuit, and then Stealth Rock and stuff too. So, I guess its typing also helps a lot there, not only giving it the Stab Pursuit, but the ability to thwart threats like Psychics, which are so dangerous otherwise. Camsil, 19. Pokemon AP test short response question 1. In a few sentences, describe the appeal of the different generations of OU in a way that may convince someone to be getting competitive bonds to give them a try. RBY, this will teach you to value RNG and odds in Pokemon as a whole like nothing else. And if you're new and you decry all instances of hacks, that's going to prevent you from getting better as a player. RBY teaches you harshly that you are going to need to take them into account if you want to win. And it's a lesson you need to learn. So, GSC teaches you patience and the value of skill over the course of the game. Because you're not going to be able to BS your way through your opponent with sheer strength. So I think learning how to play a long game is really valuable. Advance, it's kind of like GSC, but you also have to take into account the strength of offensive Pokemon. You have to be able to adapt to different paces of play. DPP, it's kind of like a more extreme advance because the power level has gone up, and in advance in DPP, against certain styles of team, there's very little room for error, and I think that really helps you sharpen your game. And Black and White, I think the Black and White is valuable because the introduction of Team Preview forces you to plan out as much of a game as you can right from the beginning rather than autopiloting, and I think that's a very valuable skill to have as well. And Gen 6, I think, is a great balance of playing around dangerous offensive threats and planning for long games. So, Best German or French Pokemon name when translated from English? Brutalanda. Brutalanda, the German name for Salamence, for sure. I also like Knackrack, which I believe is the French Garchomp. Wave, favorite niche move on a Mon in each gen? For example, Aerial is T-Tar for Breloom, Natural give Gyarados for grass moves, etc. Good question. I like Dragon Claw and Charizard in Gen 3 to hit Salamence. I really like that application just because I think Dragon Claw and Charizard is a cool move, but that's probably the main one I can think of off the top of my head. How do you think the newer gens would look if old explosion mechanics were maintained through each gen? Chaotic, to say the least, because a lot of stuff gets explosion. Landorus gets explosion. Can you imagine Landorus blowing up all the time? Good lord. Swords Dance explosion to boot. And even like Magearna explodes in Gen 7, although I don't think it'd use it that much. But yeah, it'd be crazy. You know, choice band explosions, like Azelf does not fall out of the metagame. Yikes. Metagross becomes even more absurd. So, yeah, Marilli here explains why Japan doesn't take single stuff so much. Single stuff so seriously. Hariyama Grande, what is the most creative username you've ever come across? Fun fact, I used the name Hariyama Grande on PO 6 years ago, so thank you for stealing it. But that's a creative username. I don't know about off the top of my head, so I'm just going to cheat and say Hariyama Grande because I really like that one. So, thoughts on Little Cup as a tier? Do you think it should be included in official tiers over a tier like Uber? Official tours over a tier like Uber? Well, Uber's isn't in official tournaments anymore because the community had so much widespread cheating. They had to nix it from Grand Slam and Snake alike. So, I'm not a fan of Little Cup, honestly. I'm not a fan of the metagames as a whole, but I also am not crazy about the player base. And this is not a shot at them, but I think over the years, like if there was a great Little Cup player base, then it'd be different. But in SPL, every time Little Cup has shown up, then it's felt like, and I have this problem with a lot of lower tiers as a whole, or even just a lot of tiers as a whole, because there's just, I don't know. In SPL, it always feels like there are one or two, maybe three good players, and then a lot of players who struggle to win. Because that's the nicest way I can put it, because it's not debasing them based off their skill. It's just that at the end of the day, they don't win. And that's the core of my issue with it. So, yeah. Pie Man, sorry. What is your favorite generation of NU? I was a huge fan of Horse NU. Felt at home with my preferred bulky offense playstyle. Ultra Sun and Moon NU was fun too, but Scarf Passamian felt like a must-bring every match. NU's cool, but I'm not really... I think Gen 5 NU is really nice, so that's what I most associate it with. And I think Gen 7 NU really had some great periods, but Gen 4 NU is my favorite overall. I find it the most homely. Gen 5 is really nice too, though. Pablo A. Ram, Kevin, when can we see your face playing ladder? When you pay me. Give me some money and I'll gladly show my face as I'm raging and calling people assholes all over the place. So, yeah, you know what to do. Yeah, also my face is not a secret. It's very much out there. But I'll save it for the main channel for a big occasion that requires me sticking my face in the thumbnail to attract views. Although maybe that would make people run away instead. I'm not sure. Depends. Last one for this week, I swear. God, we're still long to go. How much do you think the meta would change if you could see how many turns sleep would last once a mon's put to sleep? Like if Lorm spores you, a little text box pops up saying X-Mon will sleep for Y turns. I think that's really great. I don't like the variance aspects of sleep, not knowing when a Pokemon is going to wake up. So I think that would be a positive. I think the metagame wouldn't change as much because people are still going to use sleep moves when they're available. But I think this would be a good, I think it would be good for skill and playing. What elemental Stealth Rock do you think would be the most healthy to a metagame that would hypothetically exist and spread generously into move pools of Pokemon? Same way Gigantic Copper Raj as a Steel Stealth Rock? Jeez, I don't know, man. Stealth Rock already is incredibly nuts. I don't think we need more hazards. But if I had to pick one, I guess the most low impact one. So, I don't know. Bug? Even Bug digs into something like T-Tar. I know that's not as much of a big deal with Boots, but I don't know, man. I'll just say Bug. Whirlpools should have such Stage Hazard. Oh, that's like a water spike thing kind of move. Oh, that would have been nuts. How much different would be a metagame be if setting Stealth Rocks affected both sides like weather does? Well, you certainly wouldn't see people running Stealth Rock weak Pokemon, and maybe Rapid Spin becomes a lot more valuable. So, that'd be pretty nuts. In advance, which Uber besides Wabi and why not has the most chance to go to OU, and why is it Rayquaza? Well, Rayquaza is actually surprisingly manageable because... No. I mean, look, it wouldn't... I know Rayquaza has less speed than Salamence, and HP Flying isn't that strong, but, I mean, have you seen its stats? And its move pool? And the fact it ignores Sand? No Rayquaza. I mean, look at those offenses, and, like, it doesn't even just have to settle for Fire Blast, it has Overheat, of all things. That special attack stat, Jesus Lord. Neutral Nature outpaces Mata's Zapdos. Mata's Gengar, for that matter. Yeah, no thank you. Ignore Sand. DD. Yikes. No, absolutely not. So, no, not Rayquaza. Definitely not. I would say if I had to pick one, Mew, because it's been tested before, and it wasn't the most overwhelming thing, because Spike's and Sand weak, and... I mean, its move pool is insane, but if you limit it... I don't know. I think... it would not be the worst thing in the world. It doesn't get Baton Pass in Gen 3. So, or like stuff like Will-O-Wisp. So I think it would be manageable. It'd be annoying, but Mew is definitely a lot more feasible for OU than Rayquaza. I get, in theory, Latias, but I don't know. What one move changed the metagame the absolute most in your opinion? Stealth Rock. No question, because Stealth Rock is a 100% usage. It's as close to a 100% usage move as we've ever had. From Gens 4 through 5, and, 99% of 6, 7, and 8 so far, then it's used on every single team. And it shapes everything. There's no question it's Stealth Rock. So, which Gen OU do you think has the potential for future metagame development? Advance, for sure. Because the pool of Pokemon there is endless. Advance, and then the least, Black and White. Black and White is very unforgiving with its rain-centered metagame. So, yeah, Advance and Black and White. I think GSC and DPP have a lot of room for innovation too, but I think Advance has the most. I guess you could say RBY too, but people are always finding stuff in RBY, and I think Black and White is very unforgiving. So that was from Siatam. The other one about the most metagame was Non-Invasive Weeb, and then Horogumo. If you go back in time and watch any competitive Pokemon match as it happened live, which one would it be and why? Probably something of Earthworm's, definitely. Earthworm and his DPP Prime, for sure. Yeah, Earthworm versus Phillips 7086. That's not DPP, but the 2011 World Cup Finals tiebreaker. That one would have been pretty nuts. Which player had the biggest fall from grace as one is considered top and not anymore? Veteran in Love, for sure. Veteran in Love, I have immense respect for all he's done for the game and his immense accomplishments. He's not just accomplished a lot, but shaped a lot of how we play the game, which is one of the biggest things you can achieve in Pokemon. But for the last several years, he's just... which I understand because he's been a lot less invested in it. As you get older and you can invest less time and interest wanes as well, then of course you're not going to be firing on all cylinders. But he's had a rough last couple of years. So, which player had the fastest rise to the top? Oh, I don't know, man. That's a tough question. There are a lot of contenders, and I know who most players are probably thinking of. Your Tasungs and your ABRs. But I still think Heist, because I remember when he came up and just shot up out of nowhere into top player stardom. So, I don't know, it felt like he went from being, decent player to among the best of the best. Like, he went from being a decent player to the best player on a team with Prime, Panamaxes, and Earthworm. That was meteoric. So, I've been yammering for a while, so I'm going to take my bathroom break real quick, and we'll resume in a second. So, enjoy the remix. All right, so here we go. Yeah, so Bruh asks, what would you say is the most underrated or slept on Pokemon in each generation's OU? Let's go back again. Gen 1, I'm gonna say probably Rhydon? Because Rhydon is a lot more than just a just a Zapdos counter. It's a massive physical threat. I really love Rhydon. It's a small pool of Pokemon. I'm going to say, but I'm going to say Rhydon is thoroughly awesome. So Gen 2, Heracross is slept on. Rest Talk, Curse Heracross with anti-Skarmory support, or you Sleep Talk, or you Seismic Toss Heracross, and you wear down Skarmory for something like Belly Drum Snorlax to abuse. I really like Heracross. Slept on Pokemon. And I'm going to have to AFK for one more second because I am being called. So, BRB, enjoy the remix. That's funny. Okay, moving on. Gen 3, great question. Flygon, absolutely Flygon. Offensive Flygon is a force. He threatens offensive and defensive teams alike. Love, love, love Flygon. Gen 4, I'm going to say Empoleon of all sorts. Empoleon for sure, don't even have to look at the list. And Gen 5, I'm going to say Garchomp, weirdly. Non-Scarf Garchomp. Non-Scarf Garchomp is severely underrated. Him and Terrakion, for such immense threats that they are, they're slept on. And also Hydreigon gets used less than he should. Sorry, I got to AFK once more. BRB. Hopefully this is just a good podcast thing you have going in the background, and the ambiance will remain. All right. Sorry, I'm ordering dinner and the stupid site wants things from me. How much more convenient can they make it? Always more convenient. Yeah, for Gen 6, not as certain, but Hydreigon, again, I love Hydreigon in Gen 6. Should get used a lot more. Alright, so, what's your favorite thing about each gen from 1.5? I guess the same things that I mentioned with the earlier question. I love RBY's focus on playing the odds and being smart about them and positioning yourself. I did mention that earlier. RBY is very good at teaching positioning. Gen 2, I love the prolonged emphasis on skill. I like my longer games. I like how skill intensive it is. Gen 3, I like the blend of GSC's slower pace with the power of more modern gens. Gen 4 is similar. And Gen 5, I like having to... The dance of dealing with the monstrous threats in that tier is a good exercise. So thank you for saying good luck with school. Thick Silver 99, UDM 31 said that. Thick Silver 99 says, would you rather A, reduce Thunderwave accuracy from 100 to 85%, but raise Willows from 65 to 85, or B, reduce Scald from 30 to 20, but raise Ice Beam Freeze from 10 to 20? Well, seeing as Ice Beam already freezes too much, and Scald's going to burn anyway. And also, Will-O-Wisp should be hitting more. Also, it's from 75 to 85, like it is in newer gens, actually. They raised it in Gen 6. And So yeah, Will-O-Wisp should be hitting more, and Thunderwave should be hitting less. So yes, definitely A, not even close. So, and you definitely can't have Ice Beam freeze more. Mike, here we are again. So, are you prepared for the future of Pokemon? For what? Well, yeah. Well, no, I'm not, because I'm sick of them dumbing it down for an audience of children, and for their adult audience, they just constantly do the Kanto nostalgia bait nonsense, which I cannot stand. So, if they butcher my Gen 4 remakes, I'm going to have a real rage fest that will make my latter rage look like nothing. 53 new messages since we stopped recording. Oh no. Alright. For why seeketh thee more adult Pokemon titles? Because Pokemon does not have to be an infantile children's game and it has a ton of potential. I mean, Gen 1 is implicitly set in post-World War II Japan. So I think it's not like I'm trying to turn Hello Kitty into Saw. I think it's not the most outlandish thing in the world. So, from whence would you prefer they come, Game Freak or elsewhere? I don't care where they come from as long as it gets done, but I gotta say, with Game Freak's current record and Genius Sorority's, like you mentioned, the GameCube titles, Genius Sorority's proclivity for taking the franchise in an amazing new direction, and with Coliseum and XD, then if that's what it takes, then absolutely give it to them. And reminiscent of the GameCube titles, sure, that works, but if the new direction gets us out of this more of constant, hey, remember Kanto, and let's dumb it down as far as we possibly can nonsense, then I'll take it. Ever think about going into adult entertainment yourself? You know it. Gotta pay these bills somehow. Maybe you'll even find a big sugar daddy along the way. Do you have any interest in 1v1 from Just413X? No, I don't. I know Tony and Finch and CBB and Solwind like 1v1, but I don't have any interest whatsoever. So, there's the video. Got it. The upward angle on my couch and me not shaving for several days makes me look horrendous. So, there's that. Boosh. Oh wow, we're near the end. Cool. Boosh, thoughts on Fable's viability and potential in Black and White OU? Does seem like a poor man's Chansey in some regards, and its bulk is much to be desired, but seeing how diverse and unique its move pool is, along with its broken ability to ignore hazards and weather chip damage, could serve some role other than Life Orb 3 attacks in the tier. I have thought about Clefable before. Heatran Lava Plume burns are irritating, or the Lava Plume Toxic combo. Scald burns are infuriating. Sand Chip is infuriating, so I really have thought about it. I will get back to you on if it works or not, because I haven't really tried it yet, but I think there is something to be at least tried there. I can't say much more than that. C has a team for us. Politoed, Metagross, Articuno, Camerupt, Claydol, Skarmory. Yeah, this is not good. Seek the Lantern. Try harder. I will say, though, this Politoed set is really good. For sure. But Articuno sucks. And, yeah. But that Politoed is a devil. Harbinger, today's Friday. We already got weekly AMAs. It's every Sunday. I'm actually recording this on Saturday because I saw how many questions there were to get through, and I have some stuff planned for tomorrow, so I figured I would get it done here. Yes. Yeah, Clef just... Yeah, oh, also, yeah, Chansey does suck. Zasa, I hear a lot of people talk about type rebalancing. So if you could make the decision, what would you change, if anything? I'd just make Toxapex have awful typing. Water, and then something that gives it a Stealth Rock weakness. I don't know, I'd just make it Poison Steel, so it dies to every Earthquake. Or, I don't know, ruin Toxapex somehow. That'd be my only goal. ABXD, do you watch sports? If yes, what sport do you watch and what team do you support? I used to be really into baseball and basketball, and then I just kind of stopped following them. But I am a Red Sox fan in baseball, so that's as far as I go nowadays, though. Don't really watch anything else. Never really have. I watched American football sometimes, but I wasn't really that big on it on my own. I like watching it with friends, though. So, and for basketball, I didn't really have a team. Yeah. Gainery, how messed up would your life be if competitive singles 7-sub action actuals format that's sponsored by the Pokemon Company. Similar to VGC, would you go for the big cash and completely abandon your previous life to become a true Pokemon master? Yeah, if I could afford it, because half the reason I don't like VGC is because of all the travel, which is as money consuming as it is time consuming. But, you know, I would look into it and I would at least consider it. How could I not, right? But yeah, I would definitely think about that. That said, that's never going to happen because singles takes too long. It'd have to be 6v6 singles, because 3v3, no. But 6v6 singles takes too long because they don't like, they gotta appeal to as many people as possible, and dumbing it down with level 50. I wouldn't do level 50 either. Well, maybe I would. I don't know. But yeah, I would definitely consider it at least. If Metasquirtle, if Gen 5 didn't have permanent weather, what would the OU meta be like in your opinion? A lot different, a lot of stuff banned. I think sand was not broken permanent weather, but, you know, rain at least is. So if we're talking no T-Tar, then, you know, probably something similar to UU, honestly. Or UU with, like, Terrakion and stuff. And lots more Slowbro. So, lots of dragons, but I don't think that would be a bad thing. It'd be interesting. If we're talking just no rain and sun, then it'd be a pretty good metagame, I think. So, that's it for today's questions. Thank you for all of them. Please keep them coming each and every week. And every Sunday I will be or Saturday if there's a lot, but every week Sunday I will be uploading them, alongside the usual upload schedule of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and whatever else I feel like sprinkling in. So thanks for watching, hope this was enjoyable for you, and I will catch you next time.